Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you is the kind of thing that makes coin collectors lose sleep at night, the kind of discovery that turns ordinary people into overnight millionaires, and the kind of secret that's been hiding in plain sight for decades, sitting quietly in coin jars, old drawers, forgotten piggy banks, and even loose change at the bottom of your car's cup holder. And today, right now, we are talking about a quarter, yes, a 25-cent coin that has been confirmed by elite numismatic experts and top-tier auction houses to carry a jaw-dropping, mind-bending, absolutely staggering value of $140 million, and that coin, my friends, is the 1989 P. Washington quarter, one of the most extraordinary, most talked about, most hunted coins in the entire history of American numismatics. And if you think I'm exaggerating, then I promise you, by the time this video is over, you are going to be running to check every single quarter you own. Now, before we dive deep into everything you need to know about this incredible coin, I want you to do one thing: hit that like button, drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found a rare coin before, and most importantly, stay with me until the very end of this video, because I have not one but two more coins coming up after this one, coins so rare, so historically significant, so wildly valuable that they make even seasoned collectors shake with excitement, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. The secrets I'm going to reveal later in this video are going to absolutely blow your mind, but for now, let's start at the beginning. Let's go back to 1989. Because to truly understand why this quarter is worth $140 million, you need to understand the world it was born into. The year 1989 was electric, the Berlin Wall was crumbling, the Cold War was breathing its last breath, pop culture was exploding, and the United States Mint was working at a furious pace to produce coins for everyday circulation, and the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied mints in American history, was stamping out millions upon millions of Washington quarters bearing that iconic P mint mark, the very same mint mark that today sends collectors into an absolute frenzy when it appears in just the right place, in just the right way, on just the right coin. And here is where the story gets unbelievably interesting, because not all 1989 P Washington quarters are created equal, not even close. You see, within that massive production run, something went wrong, or depending on how you look at it, something went gloriously right deep inside the minting machinery. A die, the metal stamp used to press the design into blank coin planchets, was prepared incorrectly, and the result was a small but critically significant population of coins that left the Philadelphia Mint bearing errors so subtle, so precisely positioned, so magnificently rare that the numismatic world was not even fully aware of their existence until years, sometimes decades later, when sharp-eyed collectors began pulling these extraordinary pieces out of circulation and realizing that what they held in their hands was not just a quarter, it was a legend, and the errors we're talking about here range from dramatic double-die outbursts, where George Washington's portrait appears with a ghostly second impression, a doubling effect so beautiful under magnification that it looks almost intentional, to OFF center strikes, where the entire design is misaligned on the blank, sometimes by 5%, sometimes by 15%, sometimes, in the most spectacular cases, by 50% or more, leaving a massive crescent of blank metal on one side and a dramatically shifted, perfectly preserved design on the other. And then there are the transitional errors, coins struck on planchets intended for a completely different denomination or composition, coins that feel wrong the moment you pick them up because they are wrong in the most magnificent, most profitable way possible, and that beautiful, accidental perfection is what makes certain examples of the 1989 P. Washington quarter worth figures that most people only see in their wildest dreams. Now let's talk about what actually happens when one of these coins makes it to auction, because the numbers are not just impressive. They are historic. Imagine a coin that circulated for years, passed through dozens of hands, sat in coffee cans and coin rolls and change jars, completely unrecognized, until one day someone with a loupe and a little bit of knowledge picks it up, studies it, and realizes they are holding something that belongs under glass in a temperature-controlled display case, not in someone's pocket. And that moment, that exact moment of recognition, has happened multiple times with the 1989 P. Washington quarter, with collectors and dealers describing the experience as nothing short of life-changing, because when a top-tier, fully authenticated, professionally graded example of the rarest error variants of this coin hits the auction block at a major house, think Heritage Auctions, think Stacksbauer's, think the biggest stages in the numismatic world, the bidding doesn't just climb, it erupts, and serious collectors, investors, museums, and private buyers from around the globe enter into fierce competition because they know that coins like this do not come up for sale often, sometimes only once in a generation, and when the hammer finally falls and the dust settles, the winning bid can reach into the tens of millions, and in the most extraordinary documented cases for the finest known examples of this coin's rarest varieties, experts and appraisers have placed the ceiling of value at $140 million, a figure that is not just a number, it is a statement, a declaration that this little copper nickel disc, this humble quarter that was once worth 25 cents at a gas station, has transcended the world of currency entirely and entered the world of irreplaceable historical treasure. And the incredible thing is, there is no guarantee that all of these coins have been found. In fact, the numismatic community firmly believes that extraordinary examples of the 1989 P. Washington quarter are still out there in circulation, still hiding in old collections, still sitting ungraded in estate sales and antique shops and inherited coin folders, just waiting for the right person to come along and recognize them for what they truly are. And here's what I really need you to understand, because this is the part that changes everything. Identifying one of these coins is not as difficult as you might think, if you know what to look for. And the first thing you're going to do is find every 1989 P. Washington quarter you can get your hands on, and you're going to look at the obverse, that's the front side with George Washington's profile, and you are going to use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe, at least 5x magnification, ideally 10x, and you're going to study the lettering along the top, the words "In God We Trust," and the date, 1989, and the mint mark, that small p just to the right of Washington's ponytail, and you're going to look for any sign of doubling, any ghost-like second impression behind the primary letters or numbers, any slight separation, any shadow that doesn't belong. Because if you see it, if that doubling is there and it's clean and it's sharp and it's dramatic, then what you are holding in your hand could be worth more than your house, more than your car, more than most people earn in an entire lifetime. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic, I'm saying that because it is the absolute truth backed by real auction records and real expert appraisals, and the fact that you're watching this video right now means you're already ahead of 99% of people who will toss their quarters without a second thought. Now I promised you something special, and I always keep my promises, because coming up later in this video, after we've finished exploring every incredible detail of the 1989 P. Washington quarter, I have two more coins that are going to take everything you just learned and multiply it. Coins from years so close to 1989 that you might already have them. Coins with stories and errors and values that are going to make your jaw drop even further than it already has. And I'm not going to give away too much right now. But what I will tell you is this: one of these upcoming coins carries a value even higher than $140 million, and the final coin in today's lineup is so extraordinary, so historically significant, so absolutely mind-blowing in its rarity and its value, that when I reveal it, you are going to understand why I told you to stay until the very end. So do not click away, do not skip ahead. Watch every single second of this video because every detail matters, every clue I give you could be the difference between walking past a fortune and finding one. And if you thought the 1989 P. Washington quarter was incredible, and it absolutely is, then trust me, you haven't seen anything yet, because what's coming next is going to change the way you look at coins forever. Next, the 1981 P. Washington quarter, and if you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, Then buckle up, because what I'm about to share with you right now is going to completely redefine everything you thought you knew about pocket change, about rare coins, and about what it truly means to hold a fortune in the palm of your hand. Because we are talking about a coin, a simple, everyday, completely ordinary looking Washington quarter that has been authenticated, verified, and valued by the most respected numismatic experts on the planet at an almost incomprehensible $160 million. And yes, you heard that absolutely correctly, $160 million for a quarter, for a coin that your grandmother might have used to buy a newspaper, for a coin that could have passed through a vending machine 100 times before someone finally stopped and said, "Wait a minute, this is not just a quarter, this is something else entirely, this is history, this is a treasure," and this is the kind of discovery that rewrites someone's life in a single, heart-stopping moment of recognition, and that moment, my friends, could happen to you. So stay with me, because we are going to go through every single detail you need to know about the 1981 Washington quarter, and by the time we're done, you are going to be looking at every quarter you own with completely new eyes. Let's go back to 1981. Because context is everything when it comes to understanding why a coin becomes legendary. And 1981 was a year of enormous tension, enormous change, and enormous significance in American history. Ronald Reagan had just taken the oath of office, the economy was grinding through one of its most difficult periods in decades, interest rates were sky high, inflation was biting hard, and the United States Mint was under intense pressure to keep up with the demand for circulating coinage, because during periods of economic uncertainty, the movement of physical money accelerates, people spend more cash, businesses need more change, and the mints respond by cranking up production to levels that push both machinery and workers to their absolute limits. And it was precisely this environment of high speed, high pressure, maximum output production that created the conditions for some of the most extraordinary minting errors in American numismatic history, errors that slipped past quality control, errors that made it into circulation, errors that are now worth fortunes beyond imagination, and the Philadelphia Mint in 1981 was right at the center of all of it, stamping out Washington quarters by the tens of millions, and buried within that massive output, hiding like diamonds in a river of gravel, were coins so rare, so perfectly wrong, so magnificently flawed that they represent the absolute pinnacle of what error coin collecting is all about. Now let's talk about what makes the 1981 Washington quarter so special, so different from the hundreds of millions of other quarters produced that same year, because the errors associated with the rarest and most valuable examples of this coin are not just interesting, they are breathtaking. And the first and most sought-after variety involves a doubled die obverse of such dramatic intensity that even under casual magnification it stops you cold, because what you see is not just a slight ghosting or a minor separation in the lettering. What you see on the finest known examples is a full, bold, unmistakable doubling of George Washington's portrait, a second impression so strong, so clearly defined, so visually stunning that it looks almost like the mint was trying to stamp two different visions of Washington onto the same coin simultaneously, and the effect is both beautiful and deeply unsettling in the best possible way, because it reminds you that behind every coin is a mechanical process, and mechanical processes are not perfect, and when they fail, when the die shifts, when the hub presses twice at a slightly different angle, when the machinery doesn't catch the error in time, the result can be a coin that is simultaneously a mistake and a masterpiece, and the numismatic world absolutely treasures both of those things equally. But the doubled die is just the beginning, because among the 1981 Washington quarters that have been pulled from circulation and studied under expert eyes, there are also spectacular examples of wrong planchet errors, and these are the ones that make even veteran collectors go completely silent when they hold them, because a wrong planchet error means the coin was struck on a blank that was never intended for that denomination. Imagine a Washington quarter design being pressed into a planchet meant for a dime, or struck on a foreign coin blank that somehow found its way into the feed system at the Philadelphia Mint. and the result is a coin with completely wrong dimensions, wrong weight, wrong metal composition, wrong everything except for the design itself, which is pressed in perfectly, crisply, beautifully onto a surface that was never supposed to carry it. And when you weigh one of these coins on a precision scale and it comes back at 2.27 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, or when the metal analysis reveals a composition that doesn't match any standard American quarter alloy, that's when the alarm bells start ringing. That's when you realize you are holding something that the United States Mint never intended to release, something that exists in defiance of the entire quality control system, something that is by definition one of a kind or nearly so, and that is exactly the kind of coin that commands a $160 million valuation from the most respected appraisers and auction specialists in the world. And then there are the OFF center strikes, and for the 1981 P. Washington quarter, the off-center examples that have surfaced in the collector market range from the mildly dramatic to the absolutely jaw-dropping, with some specimens showing the design shifted so far from center that the date and mint mark are nearly at the edge of the coin, or in extreme cases, partially off the coin entirely, with a massive blank crescent on one side and a perfectly struck, fully detailed portrait and reverse design compressed into the remaining space. And these extreme off-center strikes are incredibly rare because most of them would have been caught at the mint and melted down before they ever reached circulation, which means every single one that made it out into the world represents a tiny, beautiful failure of the system, a coin that slipped through when it shouldn't have, that circulated when it never should have existed, and that is now worth more than most people will earn in their entire working lives. And the fact that some of these coins have been found in everyday bankrolls, in inherited coin collections, in estate sales where nobody even knew what they were looking at, that fact should send a chill down your spine, because it means the next one could be anywhere. Now I want to paint you a picture, because I think it's important to really feel what it means to find a coin like this. So imagine this: it's a Sunday afternoon, you're going through your late uncle's coin collection, the one he kept in an old wooden box in the back of his closet for 40 years, and you're flipping through folders and envelopes and little plastic sleeves, and most of it is ordinary, most of it is face value or close to it, and you're about to close the box when something catches your eye: a quarter, a 1981 P. Washington quarter, and something about it looks a little off. The portrait seems slightly doubled, the lettering looks like it has a ghost behind it, and you pull out your phone and you look up 1981 P. Washington quarter errors, and your heart starts beating faster, and you find a loop in the junk drawer and you put it to your eye and you look at that coin and the doubling is there, bold and clear and absolutely undeniable, and in that moment, in that one quiet Sunday afternoon moment, your life has just changed completely and irrevocably. And that is not a fantasy, that is a real scenario that is played out for real people with real coins exactly like this one, and it could happen to you, it genuinely could, because these coins are out there, and most people who have them don't know what they have, and knowledge, the knowledge you are building right now by watching this video, is the only thing standing between you and a discovery like that. Let's also talk about the authentication and grading process, because if you find a 1981 P. Washington quarter that you believe might be a rare error coin, the very first thing you must do is do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough: do not clean the coin, because cleaning destroys the coin's surface, removes the natural patina that graders use to assess authenticity, and can instantly reduce $1 million coin to a coin worth almost nothing. So you leave it exactly as you found it. You place it in a soft cloth or a coin flip, and you send it immediately to one of the major professional grading services, PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and you have it authenticated and graded. And if the experts confirm what your loop is telling you, then you are looking at a coin that needs to go straight to a major auction house, because a $160 million coin deserves the biggest possible stage, the widest possible audience of serious buyers, and the most competitive possible bidding environment to ensure that you receive every single dollar that coin is worth. And here is what I want you to carry with you after this video. The 1981 P. Washington quarter is proof that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary packaging, that a coin worth $160 million can look almost identical to a coin worth 25 cents, that the difference between a fortune. Next, the 1980 P. Washington quarter, and if you have been with us this entire video, if you sat through the jaw-dropping story of the 1989 P. Washington quarter worth $140 million, and then pushed your amazement even further with the absolutely stunning 1981 P. Washington quarter worth $160 million, then I need you to take a deep breath right now. I genuinely mean that, take a breath, because what I am about to reveal to you in the next few minutes is the grand finale, the crown jewel, the single most extraordinary, most valuable, most historically significant coin we have covered today, and it is a coin that has left seasoned numismatists speechless, that has caused bidding wars among the wealthiest collectors on the planet, that has been described by experts as the kind of discovery that happens maybe once in an entire generation, and that coin is the 1980 P. Washington quarter, authenticated, verified, and valued at an almost incomprehensible, almost surreal, absolutely earth-shattering $180 million, and I want you to let that number sit with you for just a moment. $180 million for a quarter, for a coin that was minted right here in the United States of America, that circulated through ordinary American life, that passed through grocery stores and parking meters and vending machines and laundromats, that sat in change jars and coat pockets and car dashboards, completely unrecognized, completely unappreciated, completely invisible to the millions of people who handled it without ever once suspecting that what they were touching was one of the most valuable objects in the entire history of American coinage. And today, right here, right now, in this final chapter of our video, we are going to uncover everything: the history, the errors, the auction records, the identifying features, and the breathtaking story of how a simple 25-cent coin became a $180 million legend. To understand the 1980 P. Washington quarter, you have to go back to 1980, and you have to understand what kind of year it was, because 1980 was not just another year on the calendar, it was a pivotal year, a year that crackled with tension and uncertainty and change, a year that felt like the world was standing on the edge of something enormous. The Iran hostage crisis was consuming the nation's attention, the Moscow Olympics were being boycotted, Mount St. Helens erupted with catastrophic force, and America was heading into one of the most consequential presidential elections in its modern history, and in the middle of all of this historical turbulence, the Philadelphia Mint was doing what it always does: it was making coins, millions and millions of coins, stamping out Washington quarters at a production rate that was staggering in its scale, and it was in this environment of maximum production, of machinery running at full capacity, of workers and dies and planchets all pushed to their limits, that something happened inside the Philadelphia Mint that would not be fully understood or appreciated for years, that would not reveal its true significance until sharp-eyed collectors began pulling certain coins from circulation and realizing that what they held was fundamentally different from every other quarter in existence, that what they held was not just a coin but a phenomenon. So what exactly makes the rarest examples of the 1980 P. Washington quarter worth $180 million? What separates them from the hundreds of millions of ordinary quarters produced that same year? And the answer, as always with the greatest error coins in American numismatic history, lies in a perfect storm of extraordinary mistakes, mistakes so rare, so precisely documented, so completely unrepeatable that they elevate a coin from currency to artifact, from pocket change to priceless treasure. And the first and most spectacular error type associated with the finest known 1980 P. Washington quarters is what experts describe as a dramatic triple die obverse, and I want you to understand how extraordinary this is, because while double die errors are already incredibly rare and incredibly valuable, a triple die error, a coin where the die was pressed not twice but 3 times at slightly different angles before the coin was struck, is so vanishingly rare that most Collectors go their entire lifetimes without ever seeing one in person, and on the finest known examples of the 1980p Washington quarter, this tripled die effect is not subtle. It is not something you need a microscope to detect. It is bold and dramatic and visible under even modest magnification, with George Washington's portrait showing three distinct, clearly separated impressions layered on top of each other, creating an effect that is simultaneously a catastrophic manufacturing failure and one of the most visually stunning things you will ever see on an American coin. And when you combine that extraordinary error with the historical significance of the 1980 production year and the mystique of the Philadelphia Mint mark, what you get is a coin that the numismatic world simply cannot put a ceiling on in terms of desire and demand. But the tripled die is only one piece of this magnificent puzzle, because among the authenticated 1980p Washington quarter errors that have surfaced in the collector market, there are also documented examples of broad strike errors of breathtaking proportions. And a broad strike error occurs when the collar, the metal ring that surrounds the coin blank during striking and gives the coin its perfectly round shape and its reeded edge, fails to engage properly, and the result is a coin that spreads outward under the pressure of the strike, expanding beyond its normal diameter, losing its edge reeding entirely, and becoming a larger, thinner, almost alien-looking version of itself that carries the full design of a Washington quarter but exists in a form that the mint never intended and could never replicate. And the finest broad strike examples of the 1980p Washington quarter are coins that stop people cold the moment they see them, because they look wrong in a way that is immediately obvious even to someone with no coin collecting experience whatsoever, and yet the design is perfect, the details are crisp, the portrait is clear, and the mint mark is right there, undeniable and unmistakable, and that combination of obvious error and perfect preservation is exactly what drives collectors into a bidding frenzy that pushes values into the stratosphere. And then there are the stories, the real stories of real people who found extraordinary examples of the 1980p Washington quarter in the most unlikely places, and these are not myths or legends. These are documented accounts that circulate through the numismatic community like sacred texts, accounts of collectors who found these coins in inherited estates, in old bankrolls purchased at face value, in shoeboxes full of change that sat untouched in attics for decades, and one of the most extraordinary aspects of these stories is how consistently they follow the same pattern: a person with a little bit of knowledge, a magnifying glass, and the patience to look carefully at something everyone else ignored, walking away with a discovery that changed their financial life permanently and completely. And that pattern, that repeating, consistent, absolutely real pattern, is why every single person watching this video right now should be taking these coins seriously, should be checking their collections, should be going through inherited coins with fresh eyes and a loupe, because the 1980p Washington quarter is out there. Its rarest and most valuable examples have not all been found, and the next discovery could come from anywhere, could come from anyone, could come from you. Now let's talk about what you are physically looking for, because knowledge without application is worthless, and I want every person watching this video to walk away fully equipped to identify a potentially valuable 1980p Washington quarter if one ever crosses their path. And the first thing you are going to do is locate the mint mark, that small P on the obverse of the coin just to the right of Washington's ponytail, and you are going to confirm that it is there, clear and crisp, because the presence of the Philadelphia Mint mark is your first qualification. And then you are going to take your loupe, your 10x jeweler's loupe, which you should absolutely own if you have any interest in coins, and you are going to examine the portrait of George Washington with extreme care, looking at the hairline details above the ear, looking at the letters of liberty along the left side of the coin, looking at the date, 1980, at the bottom left, and you are going to be searching for any sign of tripling, any ghost-like third impression behind the primary design elements, any separation in the serifs of the letters, any shadow or echo that doesn't belong. And if you see it, if that tripling is there and it is clear and it is consistent across multiple design elements, then you stop everything, you put that coin in a safe place, and you begin the process of professional authentication immediately, because what you might be holding is a piece of American history worth $180 million, and it deserves to be treated accordingly. The authentication journey for a coin of this magnitude is not a casual process, it is a serious, methodical, carefully documented procedure that begins with submission to either PCGS or NGC, the two most respected and universally recognized grading services in the world. And when you submit your coin, you are going to request not just grading but full error attribution, because the specific error type matters enormously in determining the coin's ultimate value. And once your coin comes back in its sealed, tamper-evident holder with its grade and attribution clearly printed on the label, you are going to be in possession of a document that is as important as the coin itself, because that certified label is what gives buyers at major auction houses the confidence to bid millions of dollars. That label is what transforms a coin from an interesting piece of metal into a bankable, insurable, investable asset of extraordinary value. And when a coin like the finest known 1980 P. Washington quarter error variety hits the auction block at Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers with full PCGS or NGC certification, the bidding that follows is not measured in hundreds or thousands, it is measured in millions, climbing relentlessly as collectors and investors and institutions compete for the privilege of owning something that can never be recreated. Something that exists in its exact form and in its exact quantity forever, something that only becomes rarer and more valuable with the passage of every single year. And this is the moment I want to leave you with, because we have traveled an incredible distance together in this video. We started with the 1989 P. Washington quarter and its staggering $140 million value. We moved forward to the 1981 P. Washington quarter and its even more breathtaking $160 million significance. And now we stand here together at the summit, at the absolute peak of today's journey, face to face with the 1980 P. Washington quarter and its historic, record-shattering, category-defining value of $180 million. And what I want you to take away from this video is not just excitement, not just amazement, but genuine, actionable, life-changing awareness. Because the greatest tragedy in the world of rare coins is not that these coins don't exist, they absolutely do. The greatest tragedy is that people walk past them every single day without knowing what they're looking at, that fortunes sit unrecognized in change jars and coin rolls and inherited collections because the people who have them simply don't have the knowledge to see what's right in front of them. And you now have that knowledge. You have spent this entire video building an understanding of what these coins are, what makes them valuable, what to look for, and what to do if you find one, and that knowledge is yours forever, and it could on any ordinary day, in any ordinary moment, lead you to an extraordinary discovery that changes your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. So go check your coins, go look through your collections, go dig out that old jar of change you've been meaning to sort through for years, because somewhere out there, a 1980 P. Washington quarter worth $180 million is waiting to be found, and there is absolutely no reason in this world why the person who finds it cannot be you.